Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how you can build a molar mass calculator using Google Spreadsheet. Actually, you can use any spreadsheet program that you like. You can use Microsoft Excel, you can use LibreOffice Calc. Here I'm using Google Sheets only because it's the easiest way I can share a link with you. This is the final version of the spreadsheet. I'm going to show you how it works and then we're going to build this from scratch. Okay, so here we have the elements column and here I'm going to put hydrogen and oxygen. And I want 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. So here I have the total molar mass. This is a water molecule, so this is the water molar mass. And I also have here a chart with the mass fraction of each element on the molecule. So here we have hydrogen and oxygen and the percentage of each element on this molecule. This is what we are going to build in this video. So here we have an empty Google spreadsheet that I'm going to use during this video to show you how you can build this molar mass calculator. And the first thing that we need is actually the source for this data. So I have here this link from IUPAC. This link has the atomic weights of the elements by 2021. As far as I know, this is the last values that we have. So here we have some tables, and the table that I want to use is the second one. It's the list of elements in atomic number order. So we have the atomic number, the symbol, the name, the atomic weight, and some notes. Usually these notes are concerning about the values and some details about the elements. So we are not going to use the notes in this calculator, but if you want to know what they are about, you can see the notes right here. But this is the table that I want to use. So I'm going to copy this link, and going back here in my spreadsheet, we are going to use a function called ImportHTML. And this function needs a URL. So I'm going to put here the link between double quotes. Then I need to put here where I'm going to carry in this URL. It can be a list or a table. In this case is a table. So I'm going to put here the string table between double quotes. And then I need to put here the index. Here in the help menu, you can see that index is starting at 1, which identifies which table or list as defined in the HTML source should be returned. In this case, we saw that we are going to use the second table. So the number that we're going to put here is number 2. And finally, the locale. Locale is the language and region locale code to use when parsing the data. In this case, the website is an English one, so I'm going to put here EN_US to make it clear that I'm going to I wanted to use English from United States. So I'm going to close the parentheses, and here we go. We have here the table from the website. So I'm going to increase the zoom here so that you can see better what I'm doing here. This is the data that we saw on that website. Now, here we can see that we have some issues with the values because for hydrogen, for example, we have here 1.008. It's a number that we can use directly. However, this other value here for helium is a bit strange because we have this number 2 between parentheses. Actually, this is the uncertainty in this measure. But these parentheses are not good for us because it makes it harder to make calculations. We can see here that if we want this value plus 2, we have an issue here, we have an error, because actually this value is a string, it's not a number, because of this parenthesis with the uncertainty. So we have to deal with this kind of problems here. We also have this empty space between the numbers that prevent us for doing some mathematical calculations. So we need to deal with this issue too. So this are the issues that we are going to deal with. The uncertainties, the parentheses, the empty space, and here in the end we have these brackets that we need to get rid of them. So we need to make some cleaning here. One way that you can deal with this kind of problem is using some functions that Google Spreadsheet has and any other spreadsheet program has to extract text from a string. So here I'm going to look for numbers until this parenthesis for start. So I'm going to use the mid function. This function, as the example here shows, you can use to get something from a string. So it returns a segment of a string. So how can you use this? I'm going to look for this cell. I know that this is already a number, so actually this is perfectly fine, but I need to ensure that this formula will work even for correct cells, or it is to say cells that have numbers already. So I'm going to look at this cell from the first position until the position where I have a parenthesis, an open parenthesis. So I'm going to search for a parenthesis in the same cell, but I want the position right before this parenthesis. So I'm looking for this position minus 1. So let's see what happened. See that we have an error in this case because this value is not a string, is a correct value without parentheses. So we need to deal with this error in a moment. But for the cells that actually had strings, it kind of worked because the uncertainties are gone. We have problems with the cells that they were already with numbers instead of strings, but for those that had uncertainties, the formula worked. And here in the end, we also have problems because of the brackets. We are going to deal with this later. Now I'm going to deal with the errors. Here, the problem is that there are no parentheses in this cell. So I want that the cell itself returns when there is an error. So let's put here a if error. I want that the value if error returns the cell. And I want to put this formula that we did before in the first position of the if error formula. See, now we have the value of the hydrogen mass right here, because there is an error when we try to search for an opening parenthesis, but I told the spreadsheet to return the cell in case of an error. So here we have the value. We still have problems with space, so we're going to deal with space right now. See that we have problems with space and with brackets. So what I'm going to do now is search for a space and replace this with an empty string. So we're going to use the substitute function. The text to search is going to be the previous formula, and I'm going to search for a space and replace with an empty string. So right now, let's copy this formula and put it in the first position of the substitute function. Now, let's do this formula for all our cells. And here we are. We have all the values without spaces and without parentheses. But we still have these brackets here. and we are going to deal with them right now. To deal with the brackets problem, I'm going to use the same logic, or almost the same logic that we used to deal with the parentheses problem. Here we're going to look for the position of the closing bracket and search for text from the second position until this ending position. So let's do an example here. Let me put here mid. I'm going to look for this cell, and this cell I'm going to start at the second position because I don't want the first bracket. Then I will search for the closing bracket in the same cell, and the length that I'm going to extract with the mid function is -2. Because I have to make the difference between the length of the string minus the starting position, and the starting position is 2. So let's close this parenthesis, and here we are, we have 209 and all the values that we want. However, we are going to have the same problem that we had before in case of we don't have brackets. In these cases, we are going to deal with these errors using the IFERROR function as we've done before. So I'm going to copy this formula here, put it inside an IFERROR function as a value IFERROR, and in the first position, we are going to place this formula. And everything should be working right now. We need to put this D3, D3, and everything should work right now. Let's see. Here we are with all the values without uncertainties, without parentheses, without brackets. So these are the values that we are going to use in our calculator. To make it easier to deal with all these values and formulas, I'll make a copy of this. So I will duplicate this. Now I'm going to delete these columns because we don't need them anymore. Delete these columns. I'll name this column here weights. Okay, and now I'm going to color this table just to make it easier to see. So we can put alternating colors. And I like this green one. So now things are a bit prettier. I'm going to name this tab as final, just because this is the final tab that we are going to work on. I really like to work with named range because they make formulas way easier to read. So I'm naming this first column here as atomic numbers. So we can go here in data, named range, and I put here atomic number. This second column, I will call it symbols. This one, I'll call it names. This one and this one we are not going to use, so I will not name them. And the last one, I'll call it weights. So this will make formulas a bit easier to read, and our job to build these formulas a bit easier. Now I'm going to create another table here with elements, number of atoms, atomic weight, total, and mass fraction. This is going to be the table where our final values will appear. So let's do the water example again. I want 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. So now we are going to look up on this table, find the element, get the weight related with this element, multiply by this number, and get the final atomic weight. So let's do this. We are going to use the VLOOKUP function, where we are going to search for this element in the range between symbols, and that's why it's good to use named range, because now it's going to be a clear formula, and weights. We are going to look for the fifth column. So we have the first column, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. So we're going to look for the fifth column, and we don't have our ordered columns, so this is false. So here we are, we have 1.008, this is correct, and 15.999, this is correct too. The total is the multiplication of this column by this column, and we are almost finished. I want to have more lines here, just in case we have a large molecule or compound. So I'm going to create a table here with 7 rows and a total line here. So this is the table that I'm going to build. So let's format this with alternating colors. We have a header and a footer, and let's put this in yellow. So here we are. Here I'm going to put a total with the sum of all these rows, and I will name this cell as total. So name it range, add a range, I will name this as total, so that I can put here in this cell this one divided by total. So here's the mass fraction, and this is going to be the same here. And here we have the sum of all these cells. We have to put the same formula for all the rows. So here we are, and now we are having problems here because we have some empty cells. Now we're going to deal with this using a conditional. I'm going to make this VLOOKUP only if. So I'm going to open an if clause here. I'm going to see if is blank this position, I want this cell to be empty. If not is blank, I want to do the VLOOKUP. So here we are. Now all the errors should be gone in this column, and we are going to do the same here. So I'll create a if. I'm going to see if is blank this first cell. If it is, return nothing, else let's do the multiplication. And we're going to apply to all these rows. Okay, and we are going to do the same thing here. We are going to create a conditional. We are going to see if is blank the first cell. If it is, return nothing, and if it's not, do the math. And we are going to replicate this for all the rows. So the molar mass calculator is done. We are going now to create the chart. But before, let's do some improvements. Here we are going to put these titles in bold, center them, the same here, bold, center them, the same here, bold, and center the values, just to make it easier for people to understand what's happening. So here we are. For the chart, we're going to look for this range, insert chart, and it's going to be a column chart, but not exactly like this. The series is going to be mass fraction. We don't need this series, and we don't need this one too. And we are going to use row 2 as readers. Here in Customize, we are going to put a title, and the title will be mass fraction. So we have the title right now, mass fraction. For the series, I like to use light colors, so I prefer using this one, but you can choose whatever you want here. For the vertical axis, we can use a different scale here. So we can put here to a scale factor of 0.01 so that the values here will appear as percentages. Grid lines, I really don't want these grid lines to appear, so I'm going to uncheck this box. And here we are. We have now a chart for mass fraction. You can improve this chart putting data labels. So let's go back to series, check data labels, and format numbers as %. So here we are. Let's put this in bold, and I think now everything is better. And that's it, that's our Molar mass calculator. I hope that you enjoyed the video. The final version of this calculator you'll find in the link in the description. Please subscribe to this channel and wait for more videos. See ya.